also a very interesting site historically, way before Cooper secured the site from the city in 1907. Because the hope was, in fact, to have a much better space than this, which was the public theatre space. And that became available in 1901, and we tried to get that. Because that would have been a much better building to retrofit, and we would have had a new school of engineering where the public theatre now is, which was the old public library before they moved up there. That didn't work out. So we were given this building. The building previous to this site was the Army building, originally for the 7th Regiment. The 7th Regiment moved out in 1880, and a new regiment came in. But it was a large barn-like structure, and hopefully the trustees initially tried to retrofit the old building. That was their hope. I mean, need one say more. It's the great thing about Cooper Union is it has an urge to repeat its own history, even if we're...
So I will say that the money is in the bank to build the entire new building on this. Barring a failure of the bank, we are assured that this new building will rise to its full height.
Okay. Well, at that point, I think we should hear from the president of the Alumni Association.
Oh my God, that's me.
Yeah.
Well, those of you who don't know me, I graduated from this place in 1955, and I am an electrical engineer, and I am also the president of the Alumni Association. Peter neglected to mention one other thing, which none of you probably know, just one or two probably do, but we had a place called Green Engineering Camp at one time, and it was named after Norman Hewitt Green, who was a son of Abram S. Hewitt, or a grandson of Abram S. Hewitt, I believe. Abram S. Hewitt bought Green Engineering Camp, or the property that is now Ringwood Manor State Park in New Jersey, from Robert Erskine, and made it into a summer home, and did substantial improvements to the property. And that's how Cooper Union acquired what became Green Engineering Camp, and which we, in another time of financial strife in about the mid-70s, we sold.
It wasn't just the Green Engineering Camp, because architecture also...
Oh, well, yeah, but that was the name.
When you were there...
Yeah, the official name was Green Engineering Camp. And everybody thought, well, that was because it was green, but it wasn't. It was named after Norman Hewitt Green. Okay, so enough of that reminiscence. When I was here in 1951 through 1955, the 3rd Avenue L ran outside, and this was the engineering building, except for chemistry and mathematics and social studies, humanities, which took place in the foundation building. There was no engineering building. This was it. We had physics lectures in here, we had physics labs upstairs, and we used to complain bitterly about the 3rd Avenue L going by and screwing up the ballistic galvanometers and things of that nature. The only laboratories in the school, aside from the chemistry laboratories, were in this building. Chemistry laboratories were in the upper stories of the foundation building.
5th floor.
5th floor. And we had machines downstairs that ran back to the invention of machines. We had physics and electrical engineering labs were upstairs. They shared the same space. And most of the engineering classrooms were here. So if we had electrical engineering classes, they were in this building. And of course, most of you wouldn't know about Professor Milton Stecker, his classes of great terror. They took place, I think, in that corner. That was his office. So anyhow, I left here just before they took down the 3rd Avenue L. It was quite a different environment from today. We did not have an engineering building. This was it. And another little thing is we used it for other purposes on weekends. And cheap date was to come to a tea dance on Sunday afternoon, which we used to hold right here in the Hewitt Building. Remember those? You don't remember those?
Not on Sundays, but any evening we would have dances here.
Right.
In the lobby.
That was another use. So, yeah, in the lobby. So it's with a lot of nostalgia that I look to taking this building down. It's a part of me, and I hope I'm a little part of it. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, John.
that leaves just me standing. My name is Jeff Hackner, and earlier today, President Campbell asked my boss, Professor Hopkins, what does Jeff have to do with the Hewitt Building? That's an interesting question. In my many years here of implementing the campus network, I've been in all sorts of dark places in the campus, places that most people do not want to go into. And in exploring the many recesses of this building and the foundation building, I discovered a lot of what was hidden from everyday view, and it fascinated me. And I studied the history of this building in particular. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the technical history of this building, and then we're going to take a... oh my goodness. Well, we're going to try... I'm used to leading large tour groups, but this was... wow. We're going to try to take a tour of some of the interesting places in this building that few have seen, or at least that few were authorized to see. This semester's been kind of a wild west with the art school. Some of you guys have gotten to places that I didn't know existed. Left your mark there. As Peter indicated, we had acquired this site from the city. It was the former Tompkins Market. And there was, in reading the minutes of the Board of Trustees, there were periods of great deliberation. What should we do? Can we fix up the old building? Nah. Can we go forward? Well, we don't really have any money. And starting around 1909, 1910, the city is writing letters to the board saying, you know, we gave you this property and you said you'd do something with it, and it's sitting there vacant, and we're going to take it back, basically. We're going to cancel this lease, which was a 99-year lease for $100 a year, if you don't do something soon. So the board said, all right, you know, we got to do something. We don't have any money, so why don't we start construction with the money that we have? And as the building is going up, people will see it and they will donate to it, and we'll have enough money. And Peter gave you the figures. So what happens is, in 1911, the Tompkins Market is raised, construction begins on this site, and you read the progress reports in the board minutes, and sometime around 1912, they have completed 2 stories, and the slab is poured for the 3rd floor, and they are deliberating, what are our financial projections, our fundraising projections? Do we have enough money to finish the 3rd floor? And in the summertime, they say, we're not going to make it, forget it. Just put a temporary wooden roof over the 3rd floor, and let's just open the building, because above everything else, they needed space. They were kind of cramped in the foundation building. If you imagine, of course, the schools weren't quite the way they are now, but all of the functions of the entire school in that one building. And so, the records indicate that in October 2012, we started that semester late, and we moved into this building with the intention, full intention, that someday the money would be raised and the building would be completed. And it was originally envisioned as a 5 or 6 story structure. And thus, the columns and the beams in this building and the stairwells and everything is sized for a much larger building. Even the architecture of this building doesn't make any sense. It's the pedestal of a statue. And we have in the handout one of the many renditions of what this building would have looked like if it were completed to its full height. And I think you'll see that it makes a lot more sense architecturally. So the building opens in 1912, and periodically the issue comes up of how can we expand the building? In the late 1920s, Cooper is finally rolling in the dough. I guess the investments are doing well in the stock market or whatever. And yes, we have the money now to finish the Hewitt Building, and there's great excitement about this and drawings about what a utopian society this will be when the Hewitt Memorial Building is its full size. And they go ahead to construction planning, and then the oh crap light comes on. And what happens is the structural engineers take another look at the foundations of this building. And this is where one of the many myths has crept in over the years, so I will dispel it. Everyone says this building is sinking. The building hasn't moved an inch since 1912. problem was, this building is, the soils in this area are soft, the rock is way down there, and the foundations were miscalculated. It was not Cooper engineers, as far as we know, who did this. It was a group called Milligan Brothers Engineering out of Staten Island, and we located the original structural drawings, and they're in the architecture archives now being analyzed. So they look at the building, and they look at the foundations, and they look at the soil conditions, and they say, well, we would recommend the 2,000 PSF loading based on soil conditions, pounds per square foot, and your current loading is 1995, have a nice day. So they consider other options, and this keeps on coming up like every 20 years, somebody rediscovers this problem. They consider underpinning the foundations and all sorts of complicated stuff. And in 1932, they say, you know what?